All right, we are live, I believe. I'm going to give a couple more minutes for people to kind of get in here, and Facebook took a couple seconds for us to get in there. Hello, everybody. I'm George Affleck, and along with me is Mike Wilson. We are the core team here at the Campaign University, and we've got a great episode for you this week on our live. I'll get into that in a second, but really want to say hello to a lot of new followers here in the group. We're up to almost 1,000 followers. Seen a massive increase in the last couple of weeks, which is fantastic. I think as we head into 2024, obviously there's a lot of elections happening in the US and in Canada, provincially, statewide, federally, all those things. And for those of you who are, and there are several outside North America, UK and Australia, welcome as well to the group. And a lot of the things we teach at the Campaign University and talk about work across many places in all markets, in all communities. It's basic structures of how we run campaigns behind the scenes, and certainly from my experience as a former politician, how you actually can build your brand and get elected. All right, so that gives it up for a few minutes now. For those who are in our private groups, don't forget about our call next week. It's heading toward Christmas, so we might take a break between Christmas and New Year's. We haven't actually talked about that, Mike. But today we're going to be talking about something that we actually deal with every day. Mike and I are both agency owners. We work with multiple kinds of clients, but a lot of political clients as well. And our experience in the last couple of years has been massive change in how things are getting done. The impact of AI just in the last year is huge, and in mostly a positive way for marketing and advertising. But you have to be on top of it. And in 2024, and that's what we're going to talk about today, there are a lot of things that have changed since the last election, even since the summer. There have been changes related to AI and related to how you SMS and text, especially in the United States. You have to follow some new rules down there. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about social platforms you can use, the ones you can't use, where you should be organically, where you should be unpaid. So lots of stuff to cover today. We have a special gift for you if you stick to the end that we'll send to you, and you can DM us or put a yes in the comments. And Mike will talk a bit about that in a second. I'm going to hand it over to Mike. He's going to lead us through today's training, but feel free to comment in the below if you're on here live, and we'll try to monitor the questions if you have any questions, and after we finish as well, throw in some questions if you have them. Always happy to answer questions in our group, live or after the fact. So over to you, Mike. Tell us what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. We're thankful everyone that watches live and watches later on. As George said, we're going to go over today some of the major changes that are happening in 2024 campaigns. I myself am working on a couple of campaigns right now, and even since the 2022 cycle, it's a completely different world. We're going to give you some actual things you can do to prepare yourself, so when you get to your campaign period or the month or 2 months before the campaign, you actually have a built-in audience and are able to deal with the shifting rules and shifting media trends that are going on. So really excited to dive into this with you. If you are elected right now and won your last campaign, or if you ran last time and lost, this is going to be really important training too, just because running it the same way that you ran it last time is not going to work. Things are moving so quickly. That's what we're really noticing. And so we'll dive into it. As George says too, a lot of this works. Everything we're talking about works if you're a federal, state, or municipal candidate, or even running for the judiciary. These changes are all very pertinent to you. So let's dive right in. So we're going to look at the key changes that are going to affect your 2024 campaign. The first one, George touched off the top, and us as marketing agency owners as well, we work with a lot of advocacy groups and, political clients, but not politicians that are trying to change laws and change government rules. And so we're doing this all the time from a marketing perspective, and then also in political campaigns where we're working right now as well. And the one thing that just kind of came into the marketing world, unlike any other industry, is AI. So if you are producing written documents, videos, images, even policy documents, any of those things that you would do a lot of in a campaign, even back-to-back automation, speaking over text with your voters, speaking over email with your voters, all that is becoming AI intensive in the best way possible. So written content can be produced at 10 times the speed it used to be. Video production, I'm working with a client right now, and he had like a 5-minute video where he just nailed this crime and safety issue that was really important to him, but he made this mistake right in the middle of the video. So in years past, we would have had to go reshoot. The whole thing was great, or cut out that little section. We were actually just to get AI to redevelop the video for us and put an AI version of him right in the middle of the video just to fix his little flub with his speech. And it took 10 seconds. That would have been a complete reshoot, a new budget, just a hassle for any campaign in the past. So these things are happening really, really quickly. You can produce your content, your policy, respond to media way faster than ever before. As AI is picking up speed, one of the things that we're seeing that is making a huge difference is no longer can news media keep up anymore. So people are no longer saying, oh, I'm going to wait for the 6 o'clock Fox News or CNN and go see what's going on and breaking news. Because AI is now involved on social media channels like TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts, people are actually going there to get the news because it's coming so much faster. And actually a lot of that is AI generated. So what you're going to see in your campaign is where people may have been going to get news from news sources about who won the debate and who's doing well and what are the issues and policies that are being brought forward. That's actually going to happen probably on your own channels and your opponent's own channels more so than any time before, any campaign before. And you're already seeing that like in the Republican primary where, the news media isn't really covering it per se. People are actually just watching the TikToks and the reels of the candidates in a way they never have before. So you're going to have to develop your own content and get it out as fast as you can, which you can now with the help of AI. And the final thing I would say, which we'll talk about a lot during this training, is just TikTok. I would say Instagram Reels and TikTok. So we're seeing a massive explosion in the use of it, especially with anyone 50 years and under. TikTok, especially as a news source. So a lot of people are just going to TikTok and watching their news on TikTok, almost as they would have done on television in years past. And at the time of this filming, which is December 15th, 2023, at least a third of all Americans are on TikTok, using TikTok and watching TikTok. So that's an explosion since the last election cycle.
It's the second biggest search engine too. So, when you're thinking about issues based in your community, something happens, people quite often will go to TikTok and they'll search that issue. Quite often it's about when people die, celebrity stuff. But if there's news happening in your community and you've got that demographic that's 50 or under, make sure you're putting TikToks up there. It's really great with AI and TikTok because you actually can take some news, you literally put it into AI, into Chat GPT, and say, here's a news story that you pull it off wherever. Write a script for me. I'm a politician, blah, blah, blah. Write a script for me that summarizes this and relates to my issues, and put in your issues. And then it can create a script for you that's like 30 seconds long. You go on TikTok, just record it. And obviously make sure you read it over before you record it. Practice it a couple of times and just go, this just happened. Here's my opinion on it, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. And then just make sure you tag it. It's a bit more complicated than, say, Twitter. But you can do these videos as well on TikTok and then repurpose them on Instagram and on TikTok as well.
Yeah, and on YouTube, and it explodes. You can have 100,000 views, 200,000 views. Like even if you're running for a state senate district that's quite small, you can hit the whole thing with one explosion. So it's a really great source. And George kind of touched on it there, how to use the AI. So you're going to want to train the AI by giving it your old speeches and speeches you like and your voice. So it knows exactly how to talk like you and write like you. So when you are feeding it material and getting it back, you have to do less and less editing because you really you can train it to have your voice, which is something we highly recommend. Never just take what comes out of the AI and post it. You're always going to give it, a last pass through, but you can train the AI by giving it your past speeches or your written blogs or anything on your website or anything from your past campaigns, or even if you haven't run before, anything that you're doing in your workplace or in your activism that you've written before, and you can give it your best voice and train it how to talk like you.
And just in case you haven't used AI, if you're worried about the process and all the prompts and all that stuff you're hearing, the simplest prompt is to ask it for a prompt. So you say to ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using, give me a prompt. I'm a politician running for whatever. Give me the prompt that you need to add so that I can get the most information, something like that. And then it'll give you the prompt. It usually is something like, I'm running for office. Ask me everything you need to know about me in order for me to have all this information, in order for you to be educated about me. And it'll give you a whole bunch of questions. You then answer those questions, and that's how you start it. And you keep this prompt and name it that prompt permanently, because you can keep adding stuff to it. Once you leave that prompt, that section, and it saves it, it forgets who you are. So you got to use the same section always. Go back to it if it's about you, and always just keep asking it stuff. And the more you feed it, the more it learns about you, the faster it is, and the more precise it is, and the more personal it is.
Yeah, and you can be sure your opponents are going to be doing this. So, I mean, the main reason you want to get on top of it is if you're moving at the speed of the last campaign and your opponent is, using AI learning to, have their own voice, they're going to be producing 10 times the content as you, and really specific. And in the world where paid media has less and less effect and it's more of an organic game, that volume is just going to drown you out. So you don't want to get caught behind in this game because it is an ever-changing game. Next thing we want to touch on is just media habits. So the gift we are going to give you, George and I actually went down looking at all US data on all the social platforms, what ages are on them, how people are using it, how they're using it for politics, what are the rules around politics, and we broke it down into what you really need to know about each channel and how it can affect your campaign. So if you just write yes or send in the comments below, we will email it to you or DM it to you. And that's just a free gift. It's a PDF. It's something that's actually in our course. We have a full video training on it. Also in this group, there's a video training near the bottom if you scroll down to the group. But it's a really involved, because these channels, social media channels are shifting so quickly, you're going to want to know who's on what channel so you can know where to put your resources. So we're just going to give a tiny quick overview right now. Just, we can't get really into the details, but we're happy to answer your questions on a private call if you want, or get the resource, comment yes, or watch the training below in the group. Number one thing that we've already talked about, though, is the movement onto TikTok. So it's becoming like the television where people are going to get their news. It's exploded from, 10% or 5% of all Americans using it, consistently at the time of the 2022 election to over a third right now, and rapidly climbing. So you're going to want to be on TikTok. The main thing to know on TikTok is you cannot do political ads. So you're going to have to build a channel either for yourself or the issues you care about, or using influencers or supporters of yourself, where you have a channel to reach the voters, because you're not going to be able to do advertising on it. They do not allow political ads at all. Next thing to know is Instagram is also really taking off still. A lot of the younger viewers, and I say younger as anything 55 or 60 below, are really moving on to Instagram. Instagram's getting a ton of organic reach right now, so the same principle applies. If you build Instagram channels with big followings before the election, either for yourself or for the issues you care about, that's going to just pay off for you huge time, with tons of equity in your campaign, with followers you don't, Oh, sorry, I got a bit of an echo there.
That was me. Sorry, I was trying to respond to comments there, and I got stuck on Facebook 2 times. Sorry about that.
No worries. And then I just want to say Facebook is getting a little bit old. So, it's really just baby boomers on there. A lot of arguing. You can still do advertising on Facebook, but just remember, you're not going to be reaching young people. Television loses viewers every year, and most people are watching TV now on a streaming app or YouTube or Hulu, where they are, or they're PVRing, where they're fast forwarding the ads. So TV ads are dying. They used to carry American elections, and they're dying off. So it's something to be aware of. And I would just say, the more you can build an audience before your campaign, between now and let's say the end of August, for this election coming in the fall, the more followers you can get on Instagram and TikTok, that's going to pay off in your election, and that's either for you or the issues you care about. Also, we really recommend, and what we're doing with a lot of our candidates is outside of their own personal brand. Let's say they're big about crime and safety or the environment or healthcare. We're actually building channels based on those issues where we don't mention the candidate at all. We get tens of thousands of followers, all local to that candidate. And then when the election comes around, we're going to put that candidate in that channel as a voice, and it's going to be a built-in audience. The reason we do that is because it's so polarized now, especially in the Democrat or Republican circles, where a lot of the social channels just become an echo chamber. So how do you get out of that echo chamber and reach the independent voter or the voter from the other party that can lean towards you? You can build channels around issues that are going to bridge out of that, polarized environment. And then once the election comes around, you can weaponize those issues to get your voice out to new voters. So I cannot stress enough, in this environment with the changes we have, you got to build your own channels.
And every community is different, obviously, on what the issues are, and depending how big an area it is. But the channel process, it's kind of like a little bit like the super PAC concept. It can be done by somebody else that are doing these things or creating these little networks of information, issue based, whether it be, say, homelessness or something like that, where you really want to focus on that as an issue for you, and you can really drive organic traffic to those kinds of platforms if you're focused on one issue. That you can then work within, and that gives you a huge audience. Building your own audience and owning your audience is such a key part. I will say, Mike, though, regarding traditional media, it's so, things are changing so fast. Just how the old school channels are getting their own. They're really pushing people to their apps, their online apps. When you go to the apps, you want to watch the local news, you watch them on an app instead of on cable TV or whatever. And what you can't do on apps, you can't record, you can't fast forward, you have to watch the commercials. So it's interesting to see how fast this is changing on how you might market and advertise, because it may slightly head back towards traditional media being a place to spend money. So keep track of this. Look what's going on in your own community. Every media outlet's quite different. If they have an app that's successful, if a local station they've got lots of traffic, consider it as a place to go. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing traditional media, but it's changing. Everything's changing so fast that Mike and I are all trying to keep up to date, and especially as it relates to being in politics.
Yeah, there's still a place, if you're in a big budget campaign, like if you're running state senate or higher federal, you're going to want to be on TV, and you're going to want to be on these television apps, as George says. But that is becoming less and less of a powerful, pivotal point of your campaign. And you want your ads to look less and less like a 30-second commercial like we would have seen in the past, because people don't consume the creative like they do in that. So, the days of those famous ads, we talk about them in the course, the revolving door, the red phone, those are kind of gone by. And
Unless
now
you do it,
you're getting
unless you do it
more.
tongue in cheek, unless you do it
Yeah.
tongue in cheek, as in a funny, organic way. It's true, and I think we'll have a whole training section as things evolve. But we have a section in the course about Facebook ads. But that organic approach, Mike touched on that. You create that sort of major piece of content and make it organic. And the way you do it through digital media is you warm up your audience, and then you start serving them more information. It's such an effective way to do this, and people don't feel like they're being advertised to if you do it in what is perceived as organically.
So that's a great segue. Let's just touch on it really quickly. On TikTok, Reddit, and LinkedIn, you are not going to be able to advertise anything political or issue based. So you're going to want your content to look and feel very organic. So when people are watching it, they feel like they're watching a news story, or they feel like they're watching you in your natural, speech or how you are. And that's how you're going to have to talk to the audience on those channels. In Instagram, you're going to want to have a really good organic following as well, and use some of that content. The beauty of Instagram is you can just share your TikTok content right over to it, and YouTube Shorts. And then there is room on Instagram for political ads. So I would suggest we do with our clients about half organic and half paid, because people do watch ads on Instagram, although they like organic content way more. And then the other big platforms where you're going to have to advertise are YouTube and Facebook. These are places where you can still heavily rely on paid advertising to get your message out there. So the reason we wanted to break this down for you is, outside of YouTube and Facebook, if you have no strategy to build audiences and organic, you're going to be stuck on YouTube and Facebook. But if you have a strategy where you're building around issues and building around your own brand, you're going to be able to reach all these other platforms. And that's where all the younger voters really are today.
Yeah. And Facebook's not easy. Just because you can advertise there doesn't make it easy. They
Yeah.
make it complicated to get your process. So if you haven't started putting together everything you need to do in the back end of Facebook and Meta to do your advertising there, same with Google and YouTube. Start that process now. It can take quite a while, especially in the United States. There's a whole manual process that you have to go through in the United States in order to get political ads into Meta. And so you start that process because it can take a month to get through that process. We know because we have to go through it. So make sure you start working on that and at least have it set up. So when you get your money, if you haven't got it yet, and you got money, you're ready to roll when you've got those things all set up.
Yeah, great point and perfect segue again, George. The jurisdictional and platform rules on both political advertising and AI are changing super fast. Many of you that ran in 2020 will remember all of a sudden Facebook just said, we're not doing political ads anymore. A lot of big campaigns were spending, millions of dollars a day on Facebook. Immediately it was shut off. It actually threw a huge wrench in the whole campaign. And even in the midterms, some jurisdictions, banned political advertising on social media all again. The Facebook itself did it in some areas. So we don't know going into 2024 if Facebook's going to allow you to politically advertise right to the end, and that includes Meta. So it includes Instagram as well. So you need to have a strategy. If Facebook comes in and says, we're not going to allow political ads anymore, do you have an audience built in? Do you have other channels to reach them? How are you going to handle that? It's really important to know. Again, Twitter with Elon Musk said they used to not allow political ads, and now Elon says they will. So there's a change there. LinkedIn, TikTok, Reddit, as we've talked about, don't allow. So really understand that, your state or your county could easily change the law on you within minutes on social media advertising for politics. And the platforms themselves, Meta, YouTube, Google, Twitter, they could suddenly change their rules on you. So you're totally at the mercy of all these platforms and governing bodies now in a way you never were before when it was a television game. So it's important to have backup plans for backup plans, because what we've seen in the last few election cycles is great changes within the rules around political advertising. Now to throw one more thing on top of that, as if it wasn't complicated enough, they are having, trying to figure out AI as they go. So already there was a ban from Facebook on having a video like the one I talked about before that had an AI section in the middle. So you're going to have to disclose if you're using any AI in your videos. You're also going to have to disclose if you're using any AI in your images on Facebook. So that process is ever evolving. They're trying to get rid of, what they would call the deep fake videos, where, it's actually not you speaking, but just an AI generated version of yourself, which, it could happen, to be honest. So who knows what the rules finally are going to be. I would not put it past some states or some counties to just, say no AI allowed at all. So you have to be ready for that as well. We
And there
already
are regulations, by the way, Mike. I believe TikTok's not allowed in Texas, I think, if I recall. So there are some places that you can't have certain platforms. So know your rules in your states and in the country as a whole. Canada's a bit looser when it comes to this stuff. UK and Europe are much more strict. Australia quite strict. So it really depends on where you are. And keep up with the latest news, and we'll try to keep you up to date here in the platform. When we hear about changes, we'll certainly post them into our group to keep you informed.
Yeah, especially because we're working on campaigns right now, so we kind of see everything first. There's just a story here I pulled just from a few days ago in Pennsylvania's 10th. She's trying to take out Scott Perry, and she's using what George and I use a lot, which is a robot that is answering your phone calls and responding to your texts, and even could talk about the issues you care about. And so it's amazing what AI can do. This one is actually a voice, so it's not a real person, but the caller thinks it's a person. And as far as Pennsylvania is concerned, this is still allowed. So this is something you can do as well. But again, I've actually been in committees where the local governing body had gotten all parties together and were trying to make rules around, bots and taking in calls and emails and text by AI, and what would each party agree to do and not do to keep it fair. But this is going to be a really dynamic part of the next year for any campaign. What you're going to want to do is use automation to the best of your ability, which we'll talk about in a sec, but also be ready if there's a clampdown on it in your jurisdiction.
So far, Mike, there's no bot that will door knock for you though. So you still got to get out there and doors
Yeah,
knock on
got to
some
hit the
doors.
doors.
Got to hit
And,
the door.
and direct mail, right? Direct mail will
Direct
always
mail
be
still
very,
works. Yeah.
yeah. So mailing, we love mailing, and we highly recommend having a mail campaign as well, even with all this technology we're talking about.
Mhm.
All right, so the last thing we want to talk about today is democratized data management and automation. So we've touched on this a little bit. We talk about this a lot in the course. We had a training on it a few weeks back, but basically, you used to need the Republican or the Democrat machine to come in with their big system for voter and data management and calling and texting and automation and voter contact and voter ID. And that would, mean you would really rely on their technology, and it's massive, cost tens of thousands of dollars. Within the last few years, you can, for a small subscription fee, have a data system that you are using, an app, a canvassing app that you can take to the door that fills out questions for you, that puts all the data back into the system. And then for simply pay by phone, you can have a call software set up so you can phone call. So what used to take a huge machine at your local city council election, you can have a full automation system, for almost $500 or so a month, depending on how sophisticated you want. So this democratization of data management is a massive technology change that's happened in the last few years.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. It's great.
And on top of that, we just want to touch one more time on automation. So as part of that, George and I actually have a content management system which does a lot of the automation. But if you built your own software for your voter outreach and voter contact and calling, you can have text responses built into that, email responses, and it's really cost effective nowadays. Just to have a few questions, or maybe your text bot is sending people the policy they asked for, that you have it ready to go. And so it's taking you way less time. You can get way cleaner information out. You can be talking to voters constantly without all the volunteer and manpower you used to have in the past.
Yeah, the prices, I mean, we used to have to spend so much money on data management, and it's crazy how inexpensive it has become. Certainly, if you're interested in hearing more about our platform, let us know. But the automation stuff, again, you have to be careful on the automation because that might be considered AI. And so you have to be clear in your automation tools, even if it's a chatbot on your website, or you're automating texting. And you need to make it clear that this is AI potentially, if it's intuitive and asking questions like that. And there's lots of ours does that, where it understands the questions, it pulls them off the website, pulls them up from all your information. But yeah, and you also be careful because you don't know sometimes what the AI will do, and it may answer a question you don't like that doesn't represent you properly. So be really careful on the AI and the whole auto chat stuff. But certainly database management, and going back to what Mike said earlier about platforms and building your audience, and the fact that the traditional media and even digital media is changing so quickly and the rules change so quickly. The best media outlet you can possibly have is your own database. If you have your emails and you have telephone numbers, that's the most powerful medium you can possibly get. And so it's really important. We talk a lot about this in the course, and we've had individual training on this. Is building your database to ensure that you control who you can, how often you can speak, and what messages you can send, and all that stuff. And once you get those people, it's free, and that saves you a lot of money in the campaign trail. And so really start building those lists now. Get your data management in place, and really start working that and build a plan. And as Mike also said earlier, on the whole third party kind of idea, issues based stuff where you can data mine, get followers for that, so that you can then reach out to them directly. Really, really important to do, and start now, given the elections are all coming up in both countries, in Canada and US. They're all happening. pretty much at the end of 2024. So you've got, 5 to 6 months to really get your stuff in place to go hardcore for the end of the year.
Yeah, you got to get going now on building your audience. We cannot stress that enough, and that's what we're doing with our clients and the campaigns we're actively working on right now is, getting prepared to weaponize those issue pages and build audiences for the candidates. So really hope that this was helpful to everyone. Once again, if you want a breakdown of all the social media channels, who's on it, that we've created just earlier this year, so it's still timely, just type yes in the comments below. We'll get that to you. DM me or George as well, and we can get that to you. If you want to talk about any of these tactics, or just look at your campaign, what you have ready, what you don't right now, what your following's like, we're happy to get on a call with you and just talk about your local area and what you're running for and how it looks to us from a 40,000-foot view. But really appreciate everyone that's watching this now and later. Really enjoyed working with everyone so far in Campaign University. And yeah, we will see you on the next one.
We'll see you probably the end of the month, and then have a great holiday season and New Year and Christmas and whatever it is that you celebrate in December. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.